What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today we are going to talk about Altissimo. Before we dive into the tutorial, I'd like to take a second to welcome everybody to the Mauriat North America Saxophone Master Class, where we talk about all things saxophone. And today we're going to take on a gigantic saxophone topic, Altissimo, the high notes on your saxophone. We're going to talk about your fingerings, your embouchure, what you can do to get your first notes out, and how to make those notes sound even better once you do get them out. So let's get started with the fingerings. These fingerings are definitely going to work for your alto saxophone, especially if you're playing a Mauriat. I am playing a Mauriat 67 RX Influence, and these fingerings work perfect for these, for this saxophone. And they've also worked on every other alto saxophone that I've played. However, when I play tenor, I do have to use different fingerings for G and G sharp. So this is going to be more alto saxophone based for the fingerings, but for the concept of getting the Altissimo out, this information is going to work on any saxophone. Okay, so your fingering for the first Altissimo note on your saxophone is a G, and that is fingered with 1, 3, 1, side B flat, and E flat. So it would look like this: 1, 3, 1, side B flat, this bottom side key here, and your E flat key. So it looks like that: 1, 3, 1, side B flat, and E flat. And of course, on all of these, you're going to have your octave key down. So it would sound like this. For your G sharp, all you do is slide up the B flat, the side B flat, this key here, up to your side C. So it's 1, 3, 1, side C, and of course your E flat. So those two fingers are a little bit more difficult than the rest of them. And they feel a little bit weird in the beginning because you have so many open spaces. But as you get more comfortable with it, the fingerings actually do start to feel really good and make more sense, because going from the G to the G sharp to the A is very, very easy. All right, so let's talk about the A. And this is the note that I have most of my students start off with, because the fingering's easy and it seems to pop out the easiest. So this is A, and it's fingered just like a high D, except with your front finger up. So it's 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. From there, it's pretty easy. You just add, for B flat, you add your D palm key. So you have 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you add your D palm key, and that gives you a B flat. For B, you keep your D palm key down, and you add your D sharp palm key. So again, you have 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you add your D and your D sharp. So starting from G, we go. From there, the fingerings get way, way, way easier because we use a lot less of the horn. For C, we're just going to use our front F, only the front F key. So this key right here, and of course your palm key, and of course your octave key. Then for C sharp, all you have to do is add your side E key to your C fingering. So you have your front F, only your front F, and your high, your side E key. So up here, this finger and this finger. And then for your high D, you add your high F sharp key to the fingering for C sharp. So you have your front F, your side E, and your high F sharp key. That key, and that key. Okay, so now that you know your fingerings, let's talk about the embouchure and the tongue position, because that is how you get the notes to come out. So you need to get your tongue up really high in your mouth to get those notes to come out. So the way to do that is to think of the word E. Say the word E and pay attention to where your tongue is when you say E, E. Your tongue is up really high in your mouth. That's what you need for the Altissimo notes. The higher up you go on the saxophone, the higher your tongue needs to be in your mouth to get those notes to come out correctly, for the air to be hitting, or for the air to be going into the mouthpiece correctly. All right, so let's give it a try. So I'm gonna play an Altissimo A with my tongue in the E position. A, of course, is 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and my tongue is gonna be up really high in my mouth. So that note pops out really easily for me because my tongue is in the right position. If my tongue is not in the right position, if my tongue is too low, this is what it'll sound like. And chances are, if you've started trying to play Altissimo, that's what your notes are sounding like. And you're probably thinking, I've got my fingers in the right place. Why won't the notes come out? The answer is because your tongue is not high enough. Until your tongue gets high enough, those notes are always going to sound like furps and squawks. So I'm going to start off with my tongue down too low and move my tongue up. And listen to what happens to the note as I move my tongue up. The pitch of the note is going to get higher and higher until I actually hit the A. Do you hear how, as I raise my tongue up, the note gets higher? And the same thing is if I drop it, I lose the note. So your Altissimo is all about your tongue position. You have to get up into that E position. And until you get in the E position, those notes will not come out. Now, another thing that you want to think about when you're playing Altissimo is how firm your corners are around your mouthpiece. Normally they're a little bit relaxed. I mean, they're tight enough to hold the mouthpiece in place, but you're not squeezing on it very hard. When you're playing Altissimo notes, your corners need to come in and squeeze a little bit. Now, don't bite down on the reed. That's a cheat and it doesn't work and it's going to ruin your reeds and it's going to sound terrible, but you do want to squeeze in a little bit with the corners of your mouth. So this is with me not squeezing. It's kind of in there. It came out sorta. This is me with me squeezing my corners in. It just gets everything really firm. It gets the air really focused. If you do that with your tongue in the E position, you're going to have a really, really good chance of getting those Altissimo notes to pop out. Now, if you have your corners in tight and your tongue up really high and you still can't get the note out, in the beginning, a good way to try to get that first note to come out is to move the mouthpiece around a little bit in your mouth. Once you get this figured out, straightened out, you don't want to do this. But just trying to find the note, it can help if you just change the angle of the mouthpiece a little bit to try and get a little cheat to get those notes to pop out. So it'll sound like this. Yeah, I pulled it in and up, and that got the note to speak. Now, obviously, when you're playing Altissimo, you don't want to be messing around with your the angle of your mouthpiece going into your mouth. But that is a good way to get yourself to be able to hear the note, to get the note to come out in the beginning and figure out where your air needs to be. Now, even by doing those two steps in the beginning, your notes probably won't come out, or if they do, they won't come out consistently. It will take a long time. It'll take a long time for it to be consistent. But to get those first notes out, sometimes I have students do it on the first day of working on it. Sometimes it takes a couple days or a week or a couple weeks. It just kind of depends on how long it takes you to get your tongue and your embouchure in the correct position. But those notes will come out if you do work on it. Now, the sound that you're going to get most of the time when you miss the note are what I call furps. It sounds like this. When you get that, most of the time students want to stop right away because they're not getting the right note. So they stop, and they try again, and they do this. So they have all these like missed attempts. But if you heard as I was playing those, there were like little fragments of the correct note in there. So what you want to do is hold whatever comes out and then adjust your tongue to try to get it higher. So if you get this, hold that and raise your tongue to try to get it higher. Did you hear how it went up higher? It wasn't the right thing, but you're headed in the right direction. Once you get used to that sound of that squawky, squeaky sound with your tongue higher, you'll be able to raise your tongue even higher to get to the right note. There it is. So find out whatever fragment, if you get a fragment of that note. Yeah, like I'm getting fragments of the note even though I'm not holding the note that I want to hit. If you get even a fragment of that note, hold the note out, adjust your tongue, adjust the angle of your saxophone a little bit. Try and get that note to come out cleaner. Chances are that's what it's going to sound like in the beginning until you get used to the embouchure and the tongue position for those notes to come out really clean. Now, one of the big mistakes that my students make when they're trying to play these high notes is they sneak into them. What do I mean by sneak into them? I mean, like the air gradually speeds up. They don't put a full burst of air into the saxophone. So that sounds like this. So you can hear the air going, gradually getting faster. That will never ever work. You have to play the note with the full airstream. Now, there is one embouchure tweak that I make when I go to play Altissimo, and it makes the notes come out easier and bigger and fatter and fuller. And that is, I take my bottom lip and I slide it out just a little bit. So I'm taking in a little bit more reed, a little bit more mouthpiece. So I go from here to here. And by doing that, it lets more reed vibrate. And by more reed vibrating, that gives me a little bit more control up there in the Altissimo, and it gives me a bigger, fatter, fuller sound. So this is my normal embouchure. And this is my Altissimo embouchure. Do you hear the difference in the power of the note? It just lets that reed vibrate a little bit more, and when you're up that high, the more the reed vibrates, the bigger and fatter that sound is going to be. So if I'm playing a lick and I know I'm going up into the Altissimo, I will change that embouchure as I know I'm going up there. Did you hear when I took that breath? Or did you see when I took that breath? My embouchure went from that and it kind of snuck in a little bit more mouthpiece. That makes it way easier to get those Altissimo notes out. So instead of this, it's like this. Do you hear how much bigger that sound is? Now, a lot of times when you hear people playing Altissimo, even professional saxophone players, they have that squeezed off sound. And the reason for that squeezed off sound is because the reed is not vibrating enough. And the reed is not vibrating enough because they're not taking a little bit more mouthpiece to let that reed vibrate more and give them a bigger, fatter, fuller sound. So those are the steps to getting your first Altissimo notes out. First, bring your tongue up really high in the E position. Second, bring your corners in tighter than you usually do. Third, when you're trying to get that note out in the beginning, hold on to the note and keep raising your tongue. Keep messing with the position of your tongue until you get that first note out. If you get a fragment of a note, a fragment of the Altissimo note or anything that's close to it, keep moving your tongue up until you get that note out. Another thing is, do not sneak into the note. That will never ever work. You'll never get Altissimo if you sneak into the note. And last, bring that lower lip of your embouchure out just a little bit more so more reed vibrates. That's going to help get that note to come out stronger and fuller. Now, when you are practicing Altissimo, there are a couple things that are very important. First, don't bite. Never bite to get Altissimo. Never. It's not an option. Even if you get a high note out, that is not what you want to do. You're never going to have control over it. So biting to get Altissimo is just a cheat that doesn't work. Second, don't practice Altissimo for more than 2 or 3 minutes at a time. It is a serious lip killer, and after about 2 or 3 minutes, that's all your lip can take. If you try to practice it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you're going to be done. Lip dead. You're not going to be able to practice anymore that day. So practice in really small increments and just try and be consistent with getting the notes out. Once you get that G out, then go for the G sharp. Once you get the G sharp out, go for the A. Once you get the A out, go for the B flat. So you're going to gradually add to it. You're not going to go from G to D when you first get it. So like I said, usually I have my students start on the A. So if that A is your first note, once you can get that A out about 60 to 75% of the time on the first try, then go for your G. Then when your G is really clean, try to connect the G and the A. Once the G and the A are really clean, throw that G sharp there in the middle. Take it in really small steps. Obviously, once you get the A, the G, G sharp, A, then add the B flat. So you're going to add one note at a time. You're not going to get all the notes at the same time, and it might even take you a month or two to be able to get through all the notes, just because you have to keep getting your tongue up higher. And one of the big problems is with Altissimo, especially as you go higher, is intonation. So you need to get that air moving at a fast speed so that the note is in tune. So that's it. That is your tutorial on Altissimo fingerings and how to get your first Altissimo note out on the saxophone.